Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Great to be with you for another edition of Elevating You. Kraig Kann, Mike Mooney, Jill Bauer, all along. Yes, the hand wave from both. Hold on, I'll do it too. Then I can be the same as you guys. Good to see you all, and great to have everybody with us, whether you're on Facebook Live or any other possible way you might be joining via your phone. I mean, you could be on your desktop, you could be on your phone, and you will also see this later as we post this on our various social media platforms. We do this on Thursdays, almost every Thursday. It's great to be with you guys. And for those that are maybe just tuning in because somebody said, hey, what's this all about? Or you ought to check this out, Elevating You. Kann Advisory Group expanded a while back, and Mike and Jill are jumping on board with me. We've got an array of broadcasters, coaches, entrepreneurs, consultants, authors, a lot of experience, and we try to put that to use in a very casual, conversational way. So that is what it is. We're grateful that you're with us, and I'm going to kind of allow you guys to say good morning. And Jill, I'll start with you. How you been? What's going on?
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see Mike and Kraig and everybody joining us this morning. Listen, fall is here. We're shifting into the fall season. It's cool and beautiful and sunny out. It's that time of change, and I've got a lot going on, as you guys know. So, but I let me tell you, I love these mornings with you because I think it's sort of like me time in a lot of ways, because I'm always inspired by the two of you. I love the interactions that we have from people who tune in, and just ready to talk about our topic today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of learning.
It is, a lot of it. Mike,
Morning, hey, listen. Good morning. Good morning. I have to apologize. I clearly missed the memo on the fall color coordination of shirts and clothing. You two with your orange and your greens. I'm still sitting here like holding on to summer, I think. I don't know. But good morning. Anyway,
you have to ditch those after September. Okay, keep going.
Come on, man, don't judge me. And what are you trying to do? It's so early. But good morning. It's so great to see you all. And I just echo Jill. I mean, we're saying before we went live, it's like, how did we get to Thursday already? But then a part of me is like, it's Thursday already because we get to be together, and I love this time. And quite honestly, it's been really cool. To me, this kind of speaks to like the power of momentum and consistency. Kraig, this is like episode 17. Okay, so it's just cool because I'll get texts or messages from people who have like tuned in and watched and saying, hey, this is great, I picked up a couple of key things, please keep doing it. And I just think that, again, that just speaks to like what we're doing here isn't anything special or unique other than we're showing up and doing it, which
hold on. I thought this was incredibly special and very unique. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Yeah. It is, but I'm proud of it. I mean, we come up with these topics each and every week, but you're right. We show up and we interact with people and we share. That's really what we do. Right. And that's kind of how it started. I didn't mean to drive a stake in the back on that.
We're at a time where people are really craving connection.
Yeah.
So I think, when you are not being able to get out and interact the way that you would like to with people in, the way we did pre-March, I think it's nice for people to know that they can, jump on their computer in the morning or their phone and have their cup of coffee and hopefully, be inspired and motivated. We focus a lot of our talk about how to, use these ideas in business, but I think that there's a lot of takeaway too in just personal relationships and how you conduct yourself and things that you can do for you. So I think that's special.
Well, here's the topic that we went through last time. And we do this, if you're just joining us, each and every time. We kind of go back a little bit. And our topic last time we gathered was setting priorities and putting focus where it belongs. And just as a refresher, I'm going to do this. I'm going to share what we talked about. And I'll give each of you, 30 seconds to kind of go back on when it came to putting priorities in place. We each picked one key focus. Jill, yours was brand awareness. If you want to just take people through and just remind them as to what it is. And then, by the way, I do have my question of the week that came from one of our viewers. So go ahead.
Oh, great. So in talking about building your brand awareness, who are you and what you do? You might think of yourself as somebody who is just an employee of this company. So that's sort of like you're a sub brand. I had used the example that, when I was at QVC, they were the brand, but I was I was a brand under that brand. So you as a person and what you do and what your skills are, think of yourself as that brand. Align your ideas. So when I use my example of in these new endeavors I'm taking on, there is a synergy and there is a thread that connects all of them together, so that at no point is anybody going to look at my brand and say, where did that come from? There's a reason that it's all tied together. So it's that sort of consistency of message, but also sort of approach and how it's all going to come together. And then finally, that North Star, in your gut, what is it that you love? What is it that you want to do? What is it that's right as you're pursuing these brand messages, these opportunities, and how you're marketing yourself? And stay true to that, because that at the core is who you really are. If we go back to the top, and that is the core of what your brand is all about. All
right, Mike, these were yours, and was all shockingly based upon reputation. Didn't you write a book on that?
Surprise. I'm getting outside of my lane in my wheelhouse and stretching on this one. But, the idea here is that, we're trying to, and the idea of building reputation is also about building trust. And trust is a foundational part of everyone's reputation. And in this space here, I was saying, the intersection of trust is made up of two things. It's trust in your character and your competency, the character of who you are and what you stand for, as well as the competency of people knowing that you can get the job done. Are you proficient in your skills, on your professional side of things? And that kind of all then ladders back to this idea of keeping the long view in life, keeping the long view on what's building your legacy, because that's truly what we want to build and be able to leave behind.
Yeah. The legacy thing to me is really, really important. So Jill was focusing on brand, Mike was focusing on reputation, and mine was all about building a network. And I talked about weekly build calls. That's what my day is today. I'm actually spending time today. I've got like 4 or 5 backed up with some people that, yes, we're talking about business or me doing a workshop or some sort of an event with them. But others are just check-ins. They might be past clients to say, how you doing, with nothing being asked of me. And others are just catch-ups with people from a networking standpoint. I think I mentioned this last week, that if somebody, let's say I don't know Mike, and Mike connects with me on LinkedIn or requests to connect on LinkedIn, my whole thing is, yes, I'll do a little research, but if you're going to spend the time to connect and I'm going to connect back, let's figure it out. Let's have a quick conversation. Now, that doesn't mean in 1,200 people or however many we all might have on LinkedIn, you're going to be able to have a conversation with everybody, but some you can sense that there's a fit. So I do weekly build calls. I think people should do that. Social skills, I'm talking about social media and building a network where you're putting value out there for people to see and learn from. Again, it's got to be stuff that people can absorb, that they also want to share. And then lastly, prioritizing others when we're building a network and focusing on other people. How can you help them? I think that is really, really important. So those were the things that I talked about last week. And I thought it was a great conversation. And so I want to bring us to last week's top question. And this one, guys, comes from Joan in Texas. All right. I think this is interesting because we've talked about being stuck before, and this makes sense to me for somebody today in what's going on. Joan says, my focus right now is as much about earning income as it is setting priorities. In other words, some people probably like Joan are going, hey, man, I got to make money. I got bills to pay. I got whatever. Maybe she's been furloughed on it. She didn't share that. So should my priority be seeking high-paying jobs or chasing my passion? I'm conflicted. All right. So one more time, my focus right now is as much about earning income as it is about setting priorities. So should my priority be seeking a high-paying job or other high-paying jobs, or should it be chasing my passion? I'm conflicted. Mike looks conflicted in trying to answer that question. I think it's a really good question because a lot of people feel stuck and they say, all right, I really want to do this. And when we get to today's topic, I think we're all going to be able to share examples of where we've been there before, just like Joan in Texas, right? Yeah. You go, I really want to do this. But my mortgage is due on the 15th of the month, and I have a couple of kids in college, and that sort of stuff. So, Mike, I'll let you go first, buddy.
Yeah, it's funny that look wasn't as much about being conflicted as much as it was like, wow, that hits really super close to home. Yeah. So before, I made my pivot out to do what I'm doing now in my keynote speaking and coaching and consulting work. Yeah, I had my regular 9-to-5 corporate gig with a race team, and but I knew that there was going to be a point when I wanted to make that jump. So about 2.5 years beforehand, so this is where the planning comes in and trying to have that vision. My wife and I made some like serious adjustments in our lives. We decided to downsize our house. We wanted to lower the overhead. We paid off our debt. My wife went back to work so she could like pick up benefits and all these things. Like, we were being very methodical, so that when the time came, we'd be ready to do it in a way that we would still be responsible to our family, because to the point where Joan is asking, should I look for the high paying job or should I follow my passion? I would take a step back and say your priority right now is to look at what is your foundation. Do you have, the savings that you need? Have you paid off the debt? Are you looking at your very, very objectively of your responsibilities? And then while you're doing that, sure, continue to pave your path. But I would say right now, make sure you don't have any holes in the boat.
Yeah, good. Jill, you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, I agree there. You have to, one of the people that I worked with for a long time at QVC and who became a great mentor to me is Susie Orman. And Susie used to talk about, the 3 things you need to think about are people first, then money, then things. So I think, for Joan, you need to take a look and say, okay, so in weighing these 2 decisions, are the people in my life going to be taken care of if I go this path or if I take that path? Then once you have that, then you can kind of go down into the level of, and now where do I need to make the extra money? So, we don't know all the details of Joan's situation. Maybe she's been a planner. Maybe she has that foundation that you were talking about, Mike. And so she has the luxury of being able to maybe pursue it. But I love how you planned. And I think that is an important message. We all talk about ways to motivate people to pursue their passions and to, follow those dreams or to make those shifts in their business or the way that they're interacting with people in business. But planning is an important part of that. You can't just jump ship, right? So take that planning step, really look and see where you can downsize or what you need to cover the bills every month. And if you have an overflow there, then that should allow you to maybe start to dip your toe in pursuing that passion so that while they're separate for now, it might eventually come together and your passion is what's helping you make the money.
So I'm going to be very transparent here and share a little something that I have conversations with my financial advisor team about once a quarter. And we have a game plan. Now things can change. COVID changes a lot of things, and we always have to be, nimble and be able to adjust and be a little bit elastic and be able to bend here or there. But I try to keep a certain buffer in my business account off to the side that I don't even really try to touch, right? And then I work everything off of that. My point in sharing that is that if you're going to try to chase your passion, then you need to kind of maybe build that little nest egg and work really hard to build that nest egg. It might take a year for you to be able to do that, 2 years, whatever, but start now. Here we go back to Mike and his tree planting. Start doing it now so that in a year you can go, you know what? I've got, make up a number. I've got $6,000-$7,000 to invest in me trying to do this little side gig or whatever it might be that can give me another revenue stream and protect myself for the future. So I would say that questions that can come to us. Here's how you can do it. You can post them right there on Jill's Facebook page, which has like 13,470,000 followers, or you could send them to Mike and I through info@canadvisory.com. Susie Orman, for gosh sakes,
That's a name drop right there.
Yeah,
Goodness gracious.
Do you
fantastic.
have
That's awesome, though. That's awesome.
Do you have like a shovel and a thing to scoop up the dropping name right there? That was pretty good. And if you
listen, I bring her up because when I met Susie Orman, I had only been at QVC for a couple of years, and you guys, I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Like, I was a girl gone wild with my credit card. Yep. And she helped me. I'm not kidding. Like, and she helped me so much, not only get out of debt, but then also have a real understanding of the things that I needed to do to protect myself and how to invest. Like, she was, when I said she was a mentor, she was an amazing mentor. So I wasn't just throwing that out there as a name drop. I was throwing it out there as being a master of my learnings.
Well, now,
give everything
away. Jill, don't give it away. Yeah, but I'll expect you to be on my podcast coming up. I'll add the name. I have to do some editing here for a future graphic. So that's very cool. All right. Go ahead, give us your questions, everybody. That's where we come up with them. I will share this. We shared it last week. You always have time for things that you put first. Make the time to do the things that are most important to you. And we've gotten into this little financial conversation, which wasn't really where we were wanting to go. But when we are talking, and that's Jill, Mike, and myself, about things that we're trying to make a priority, I'm going to tell you that this is one of them. And that's us getting together for a webinar series called Present to Win. I do some on my own. I'm sure Mike has his own that he does, and Jill does various things as well. But together, we're offering the three of us, and you pick your sales team, and we spend time. It could be, it could be 90 minutes. It could be an hour. We work on that. That's up to you. But an eye-opening experience that we really feel proud of to be able to put forth. And we'll share our ideas. We'll give you thoughts. And each of us is, as Mike said earlier, we all have our own lanes and where we have our experiences, but we'll help you build brand. We'll help you build reputation. We'll focus on how to sell. We'll focus on how to connect. We'll focus on how to present. All of those things to build a bigger, better brand new you. And brand is the operative word. info@kannadvisory.com to get us together. We would love to spend some time with you. So with that, one more time on the questions, there's where you can send them to us. And if one of them is, hey, how can I get you guys? Go ahead, email info@kannadvisory.com. Ready to move on to today's topic? I am. Here it is. Paying your experiences forward. How what's already happened for you can actually make new things happen. And I think it's an interesting topic, not because Jill came up with it. I'm giving her credit. It was Jill. But I think it's really important because we're looking at all these different ways that we can go next level and use what's already happened for us. So here's a question that I'm going to start with you, Mike. What to do with what you've done? I mean, that's what I put in front of everybody. And here's what's going to happen, folks. Each and every one of us, I challenged us, come up with two things that will apply to this that we can help other people with. So I'm going to let you tackle just this overall, give us a broad stroke thought on this topic, what to do with what you've already done. Mike, you first.
Yeah, I would say from a broad stroke perspective on this, Kraig, is I'm a big believer that there's no experience or emotion ever wasted. It just depends on the perspective through which we're going to look at that time and what's happened to us or how we felt as a result. So I've always been compelled to look at things that have happened to me to say, so what am I supposed to learn from that? Whether it was like something fantastic that we're celebrating or something where I found myself like up at 3 a.m. sweating and worried or upset. It's like, I think the perspective is super important as we think about the things that we've gone through. And more importantly, the preparation. I believe that everything that happens is only preparing us for something greater down the road. So we've got to use those experiences to strengthen our resolve and forge our spirit.
Very good. Jill, do you have a comment on this?
Well, I mean, everything is a learning in life, right? When you fail, what have you learned from it? When you succeed, what are you learning from it? Preparation is a big part of that. I think it's, when something doesn't work, the way you have to look at it is not so much like, that didn't work out, so I'm going to try something else. But you really have to do that deeper dive into why didn't it work and what were the ramifications of it not working. And that's the real learning, right? There's work in failing, just like there's work in succeeding, right? But the work when you fail, I believe, is really what helps turn around so that you have a story of success more than you have stories of failure.
How often do we tell our kids, it's okay, you failed, you need to, and they're not good with that. And most people aren't good with that.
Who is? Right.
Great success. That's just the way it works. So we're going to each have a crack at this. I'm going to go first, what to do with what you've done. And here's the things that I would focus on if it was me and how we're paying our experiences forward. So I've spent more than 25 years in broadcasting, much like Jill, as most of you who follow this know. She and I went to school together, broadcast journalism. I pivoted and went over to be a chief communications officer at a professional sports league with the LPGA, and then started my own business. In between, I had my own business. But way back when, I started a blog, and that's where the foundation for me kind of moving forward really became what it is today. So what I would tell you is start a blog series or think about a social media strategy where you can put some things to work for yourself. All those experiences that you've had. Okay, now first it requires you charting them and taking note and putting your computer to work and listing 20 of them, and then write something about it. I think that's really, really important for everybody to think about. We want to make sure that, okay, I did this from, 1995 to 2000. What are my takeaways? What did I learn from it? What could I share? People want to get to know you. And if you're in sales, people buy you before they buy the brand anyway, or the product anyway. So you've got to be transparent and give them that. I think that's really important. From a social media strategy, that requires time too. You've got to go, okay, which platform am I going to use? Now, Jill is far better than the both of us probably combined. On Facebook, right? Mike and I focus a lot of energy on Instagram. I focus a lot of energy on Twitter. We're trying to get Jill to do more of this, focus a lot on LinkedIn. All right.
Yes.
LinkedIn is really important if you're trying to share your professional and your business experience. So I think all of that is important. My second thing is
Kraig. Yeah, I'm going to jump in here because I don't mean to kick your flow, but I got a question though, because I'm thinking of this, and what you're saying in that first bullet makes complete sense. What's your advice though to somebody who's like, Kraig, I hear you, but I am scared out of my mind to put my thoughts forward? Like, what is that small little step they could take to put themselves out there if you've never done it before? I think for the three of us, it's somewhat, it feels natural, but we were all at a place where we weren't uncomfortable, or we were uncomfortable at first. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Right, so let's say you're in sales. Let's just use that as your industry. All right. Give me 4 experiences where you either succeeded and got the sale, or 4 where you didn't. Write them down and keep it to about half a page. Look at it, read it, go, is this compelling? Could somebody learn from this? Okay, that might be a blog topic. Now, where did I fail? How did I learn from it? Make that half of a page. The bottom line is that your story is more important than you give it value for. And a lot of people walk into my workshop and they don't actually think of themselves as a brand to begin with. And I always tell them, if you don't think you're a brand, you might as well walk out the door. You've already cut your legs out from underneath you, because I'm here to tell you for the next 8 hours that you are far more important than you give yourself credit for. And if you don't work on building that brand or giving value to the ideas that you have, I always make people raise their hand. How many years you've been in the business? 5 years or less, people raise their hand. 10, 15, great. What are you doing with it? And if nobody's doing anything with it, then what's your legacy? To go back to what you said, create that legacy in words. It's one of the reasons I wrote a book. I know that's why you wrote a book. I know that's why Jill is writing a book in addition to baking cookies and standing in her kitchen doing live Facebooks. I know what we're all trying to do, and that's what people need to do as well. So I hope that answers the question. People get nervous about it, but it just takes a little step. Create topics for yourself, then write a few words. Where mine started was 140 characters on various topics. Could have been social media, could have been my thought on media coaching, could have been my thought on media relations, could have been my thought on communications, the link between ideas and action. When you read my book, when it comes out, you will see a bunch of those thoughts that I actually put together that will come to life in the form of something that's published. And I'm sure that was yours as well. All right. Here's my second one, and that's mentorship. Now, the funny thing about this one is that each and every one of us basically had this on our thing. And I said, hey, Jill, you can't use it because I'm already using it.
Jill was third to the plate. She didn't.
She was. So here's an interesting little story, and then I'll move on to the next person. When I was at the LPGA, one of the coolest things that we did was everybody on the executive leadership team, we had interns, and there were a group, and knew a group, maybe 12 at a time, 10. We had to take them out to lunch. Every executive got 1 hour, call it an hour and a half. Like I'm a long lunch guy, so I probably broke all the rules and said, hey, who wants to go for Mexican food? It's a 3-hour lunch with Kann. All right. And that was cool. And I did it, but I loved sharing. And I would always prepare what I would call a Craigslist of like 10 things that I wanted to talk about. And I would
wait a minute. You're saying that you had Craigslist before there was actually Craigslist? Or were they stolen with a C instead of a K?
With a K, yes. And I have my own. And you'll see that in the book as well. So anyway, I would have people share their experiences, what they want to learn, what they want to gain. And then we would all challenge each other. And what I would make people do around the table is, so let's say the three of us were there, and I had Jill tell a story about herself. And then hopefully the interns, through the month and a half that they'd all been together, would be able to say, without knowing whose story it was that I just read, they go, oh, that's Jill. Like I would make them get to know each other or be able to guess that that's who it was about. Mentorship is a really big thing. What can you transfer to somebody else about the experiences, positive or negative, that you have? So for me, blogging or social media and mentorship, that's where I would go. Mike, here are yours.
Well, and mine, I'm going to sort of play off of the mentorship there and sort of giving your time. I mean, I'm a big believer in that if somebody gave you a hand up in some way, shape, or form when you were coming up, it is now your responsibility and obligation to turn and do the same and reach down or reach across to help others. So I think your time is important, and that can be anything from a phone call. If somebody were to reach out to you, it could be going back. I go back to my alma mater every year and speak to students, and kind of like take them through my career story of just, helping them understand that you see me here, but there's a long path that got me from Elon to where I am today. So I think your time is super important, and sharing your story is important as well. So I'm going to share one of mine here from early on, and Kraig, you're aware of this. But when my first job at a college, I was an assistant footwear manager at a Kmart in Hickory, North Carolina. And I found myself saying, what the heck am I doing here? How did this happen? And at the time I felt very stuck because I had an apartment lease and a truck lease and bills and real world things. And at the time my manager said, hey, Mike, I could use your help after hours because we've got to reset the department, but I don't have any extra overtime money for you. And I said, man, look, I'll help you out. And that's one of the lessons there is like help for the sake of helping, give for the sake of giving without the expectation. Well, for about 3.5 weeks, we worked, hours and hours resetting this department. And at the end of it, he asked me, he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I mean, I'm coming to work. And he's like, no, what are you doing here? You need to be somewhere else. I said, yeah, but I've got a lease. I've got all these things. And he said, well, you do have a transfer clause, right? Because in this management program, you would have that. They'd move you around. And I said, of course, but I'm not going anywhere. He's like, yeah, you're right. Fast forward a couple of days later, he comes in with an envelope and he says, here's your overtime pay. I said, you didn't have to do that. I didn't think you had the money. He said, I didn't, but here you go. I opened it up, and on company letterhead was a letter of transfer. And he said, you find another job, you take this to your landlord, and you get the heck out of here. And that changed the trajectory of my career and my life, because that next job that I got was the first one in motorsports, which then led to the last 25 years. So, in that story, sharing stories are important is the point, because everyone can see how they can play a small role in changing somebody's life.
Yeah, that's a great story. You shared it on the podcast with me. Yeah. I actually think that name badge should be center on your website. I really do, somehow, some way, or in your book. You ought to play off that. It's got great lessons for everybody. So
I appreciate it, but I made a point of holding on to this all these years, just to remind myself of where I've come from, but also the story of that man that really helped me.
Yeah. Really good stuff. All right. So Mike's is giving your time, sharing your story, mine, blog, social media, mentorship, giving back. And now it's time to focus on Jill. Jill, these were the two that you came up with, and you kind of already gave a little bit of a hint on a couple of them, but take it away. All yours.
Well, to me, we were talking about this topic and how do you pay things forward, and how do you make yourself better from your experiences, and then therefore the people around you better. And so this idea of really being a master of your learnings goes back to what I was talking about earlier. There's work you have to do when you fail or you make a mistake. And you have to understand, the not just in that moment, like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. No, you need to sort of jump into it and say, all right, well, why did I make those decisions? Was I unprepared? Did I wait till the last minute? Was I careless? Was I not listening to what the job ask really was of me? And then once you understand those things, that pivots you. I've used that word a lot since I've met you, Mike Mooney. But that pivots you into, all right, so the next time I do it, I have a new checklist of things that I'm going to be doing, and making sure that this next time is different than the first. And that's a collection of learnings over your whole lifetime, right? It's I can remember in, psychology class at Mizzou, Kraig, they talk about, the first time a child touches a hot stove, they learn hot, and then they never touch it again, right?
That's right.
You never touch it again. So it's really taking all of those experiences, but having done the work to understand what you did wrong, so that you can reformulate the way that you're moving forward. So one of the examples that I had was when I graduated from Mizzou, I went to West Lafayette, Indiana, out of 200 television markets, it's market 193, right? Like, it's tiny. And I wasn't even hired as a reporter, Kraig. I don't even know if you know this, but I was hired as a weekend anchor, or no, as weekend producer, weekday reporter. And I took the producer gig because it paid a little more money than if I was just reporting all of the time. And the money was so small anyway, I needed every last dollar. Anyway, I'm doing one of the newscasts. I'm writing for the weekends. I'm writing the little Chiron graphic that's going to go at the bottom of the tease for the second segment. And there had been a balloon fiesta in New Mexico. And I kind of just put in, we have a story coming up next that's going to blow you away, right? And it had this picture of this, balloon going. So we're all frenetic. I mean, it's broadcast news, right? Like, I'm running down the hallway with my tape, whatever. I sit down and realize that I had updated that balloon story because there was an accident, but I didn't update my tease copy. So now I'm saying, we've got this story coming up that's going to blow you away. And it turned into this tragic story, right? So inappropriate. It was so wrong.
Right.
I didn't do my checklist. I didn't go through my copy. I wasn't thorough with each segment of the newscast. I never made that mistake again, because I really had this understanding of, one, it wasn't just me, but how it made my anchors look, how it made the news station look, right? How unprofessional, how insensitive it was. I mean, look at me. I have goosebumps talking about it.
I can see it now. You still, yeah.
It was a mistake. I was mortified that I made, because I'm not that person. I think I'm thorough, but it was a learning that, like, in those moments of like panic last minute, you still have to take a deep breath and make sure that you're going through all of those checklists. So how did that translate to me over the rest of my career? You can bet whenever I'm sharing stories, when I'm sharing facts, when I was presenting products on the air for QVC, I really made sure that I had all of those facts straight, so that everything I was delivering could never be called into question in terms of the way I was presenting it. So that's sort of that.
Let me add one little thing to that. And this goes with any leadership role that any of you out there may have or have had or will have. I've always been a believer in television the same way. Nobody pays attention to you or watches you like a hawk when everything is going well. When it goes bad, when something really uncomfortable happens, when there is a crisis and you're a leader, that is when all the eyes are upon you. People want to see how you handle that. They want to see how you react. They want to see how you treat others. They want to see how you carry yourself. And people will not follow you if they don't think you're the calm one in the room. We have to learn that along the way, though. Things have to happen. I mean, I always remember, not to get off track here, but I got to work on the crisis communication plan for the LPGA, like anything that could possibly happen. And you can think of a lot of things, charter flights. I mean, I can go down a lot of avenues, right? And there's a war room, so to speak, and you're in there figuring out what's our message, who's delivering it, how we'll deliver it, who's going to be there to help collaborate. I need calm. I need people who can be thought-provoking, but also thoughtful. And it's really important to think about that. So when you talk about being a master of your learnings or failing forward, having something that goes wrong for you, perfect. Like, what can you immediately do to get better? So I'll let you take it away from there.
Yeah, Mike, did you want to add something?
Well, I was just going to share with you one of my all-time favorite quotes, and this is something that honestly I can't find who actually said it. So here's the deal I'll make with you and the people who are watching. All I ask you to do is credit it back to me the first 3 times, and then you can have it after that. Okay, and it goes simply like this: life is the toughest teacher because you learn the lesson after you take the test.
That's right. That's totally true. Yeah.
Learn the lesson after you take the test. And if we could look at things that way, and I think to me that kind of sums up both of those points of being calm, but also going through it, is that we learn the lesson. And from that, we learn then how to better act, manage our emotions, be more professional. Right. As one of my old mentors would say, you got to ride tall in the saddle, you know? And that's just,
Here's another one. Here's another one for you. The truly experienced sailor does not learn in calm seas, right? They become experienced because they've dealt with whatever. If all of a sudden the boat's a rocking, I need somebody who's been there before, not somebody who's like, uh-oh, what do we do? You know, all those things are really important. So I love the failing forward, Jill.
Yeah, since we're talking quotes, I would also throw out that one from Einstein that says that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So like, if you don't change anything, the result's not going to change either. But failing forward is that's all about too. Like, it's okay to stumble. It's okay to try some things. The 3 of us are all examples of, we're all trying new things and different things in our careers. And there are going to be things that aren't going to work the way that we think. I don't think any of us will sit back and say, oh, I was such a failure. But it was like, you know what, that didn't work because, and now we're gonna make that shift to turn it around so that it does work. I think about when I was at QVC. When I was hired, I was 25. I was the youngest host that they had ever hired. I went through the audition process twice. They auditioned me once. I was out of 500. It narrowed down to 2. And then they gave the gig to somebody else because I was too young. All right. I was lucky that somebody remembered my tape. And so when new management came in, they brought me back out. They met me. I auditioned again. And by the time I flew back home to Indiana, there was a job offer on the answering machine. But going into this arena where they had already had this expectation that I was a little young and didn't have a lot of life experiences, what I would do is I watched the like top sellers, and then I tried to emulate that. But here's the failure. That's not me.
Yeah.
That worked for them. That's not who I am. I was never the one that was into, and now we only have 4,000 left in this color and 3,000 left in that color. That was never who I was. It's never what I liked when I was a shopper and somebody was selling to me. I wanted the conversation. So those fails that I had on air because I was trying to be somebody else really taught me that moving forward, the best plan was to just be Jill and to do what I knew how to do and trust that I was hired to do that for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, and Jill,
go ahead,
I
Mike.
would say, you know, that takes time though, doesn't it?
Yes, of course.
We have to be patient to say it's no different than for me. You found your groove and your style. I had to find my voice. I had to find like, what is the thing that I want to speak to? And then how do I do that from a place that reflects my experience and my passion and my vision? But that takes time. I can tell you that took me the better part of 20 years, you know, of just learning and trying to take on someone else's voice and realize, no, that's not really mine. I'm saying it, but it doesn't feel right, you know? So to get there, it does take time and patience. And I know in today's world, I think people, we don't have as much patience because we don't feel like we have enough time and we want it now. But I don't know how you speed up that process of finding that credible, authentic, sweet spot for you other than just stepping into it every day.
Well, I'll share something with you. Go ahead, Jill. No, go, Jill.
I was just going to say, you talked about like that it didn't feel right sometimes when you would do things. And I feel like so many people don't listen to that small inner voice. And we're so busy and we're so distracted and we're spending so much time. Plus, we live in this society where everything is instant, right? Give me my phone, quick swipe, I'm there. So getting back to just that sort of place where you can really hear what's going on in the gut. I think that if people would pay a little more attention and allow themselves the opportunity to listen to that, that tells you a lot about the decisions you should or shouldn't be making, or whether or not, you know, it's the right fit or not. So just didn't mean to jump on you on that, Kraig, but I think
that's what I love about this conversation is because we can all jump in on certain things and share. In about an hour and a half, I'm going to be working. I'm not going to name drop the name, but I'm working with a CEO of a company. No, not going to do that. CEO of a company to make him a better presenter. He wants to be a better public speaker. He wants to be able to do a podcast. And I bring this up because you said find your voice. By the way, I've got an allergy situation. I need to find my own. Anyway, so he's going to be really disappointed in some ways today because when we go through this 3-month process together, I don't start out with, let's start working on you being a public speaker and presenter. We build with something else first, which is all built around brand, because I can't teach somebody to become the best presenter of themselves if I don't know them and their brand story and their experiences. Because remember, we buy people first and then we buy brands. So I'm really excited about it, but he's in for an interesting thing. So when you talk about finding your voice, I'm sure he's ready to go. He's ready to start speaking. He's ready to do all these things. I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to make him wait a little bit. And it's a process before all of a sudden he hits the stage or he hits this little camera or whatever it might be. Yeah. One other thing that I would share before I go on to the next, slide to put up here is this. You talk about using your experiences and putting them to work for you. And Jill, you've shared some really cool things. I believe you are where you are being on the Today Show and doing things because you kind of figured out, hey, I can create this little niche. This is one thing I was really good at. Now I'm going to do this and I'm going to put it somewhere else. little secret here, and I didn't do this intentionally until toward the end, but when I was at the LPGA, we were all challenged to do certain things as a give back to the organization. What were the things that you could bring from your skill set or your talent that you could share with others? Well, unlike other people in the organization, I was the only former on-air person that had a background in presentation or on-air skills, whatever. And so I coached all the executives. I coached all the people in the building on presentation skills. They all got to go through the seminar, which is where my Power of Presentation seminar was born. And I built it there and then used it the minute I left the organization and started out on my own. If you go hear my keynote or you go to my workshop or we do our thing together, you're going to get the power of presentation. And it was all put together then. So what I'm saying is that you can find something from every place you've been that will become something bigger and better for you in the future that you can build off. But you got to put in the work. You got to go, all right, I'm going to really invest in the time to do this. So I think that is really important. Again, questions for me, Jill or Mike, please send them. I know we say this all the time and we come up with the questions each week and we get a few, but we would love to get a lot more and really get to know you. I want to think about one other thing here when we talk about building on our experiences. And I think this kind of gives you a visual here. And I think it's important for people to understand about the term relevancy. And if you want to stay relevant in what you do in your industry, or you want to be a person, I think this 8-month or 6-month, I don't even know how many months it's been since we've been in this COVID situation, staying relevant is probably an important thing for everybody. For us as independent contractors or speakers or whatever we do, and there's not a lot of gatherings, okay, what are you going to do to stay relevant? I would suggest that you keep adding building blocks and focus on relevant things that will advance you. So it takes work to sit down and create that. You've got to kind of carve out, and you see in these blocks here, you've got to kind of carve out a niche and figure out where you're going to move, what lane you're going to go in, and how you're going to do that. Anybody want to speak to that before I move on?
I think again, the underpinning and foundation of relevance is value. And, if you can find ways to create and deliver value, you are going to continue to be relevant to people. It's just understanding, like, in the time, I'll give you an example. Like I over the weekend, and I won't unfold all of it or unpack all of it here, but I came up with a keynote because I've been challenging myself about, the idea of what would be relevant for an audience today around COVID and where we are, but relating it back to my voice and the lessons around motorsports and reputation and team and things of that nature. So, I think part of it is we have to do that own exercise of taking a step back, and looking around to see where can I create value? Where can I add value with my voice, with my experience and the gifts that I have?
Yeah. No doubt about it. Really good. And I know I've got something coming up in December that I've really got to start putting my head around too, because my message has got to be different. We have to adapt. We always have to be thinking about how it relates. So take a look at this, folks. And I want you to look at the overall image. And this goes back to some of the things that I was talking about maybe a social media or blog or whatever it might be. But I think you mentioned it, Mike, that somebody might be afraid to dip their toe in the water, or where do they start, or what are 4 things that they could do, or however you phrased it. And I think you can't be afraid to let the world see you. If you ultimately want to create a bigger following, then you've got to do things or say things or put things out there that are worthy of followers or worth following. It all goes back to the value. So I would ask the question that if you want a long line of people that are in line to hear what you have to say or to see what you're doing, then ask yourself if the experiences that you've had, have you made that impact with people? Have you created a long line of followers along the way? Like, I do everything. Look, we all have some degree of, okay, what's in this for me? But if you don't start with what can I add for others, then you're coming from the wrong place. So I want to use my skill set to try to deliver things that will help other people, that will bring value back to me, that would make me somebody says, hey, we got to bring this guy in, or I want to watch Elevating You with Mike, Kraig, and Jill, that kind of a thing. We all want the standing ovation, but if we don't have the line of people waiting to get into the door to hear you, you'll never get that standing ovation. Jill, do you have a thought on this?
Well, I mean, I think all three of us have, this experience of, working with people and building that following, right? Whether it's on social media or it's, your reputation and the line of people that has created in terms of wanting to support you. So, I think it's you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. Maybe in this COVID time where people are working from home, for a lot of people, maybe that makes it easier for them to put themselves out there in a virtual way as opposed to in front of a room of people. Not everybody are extroverts like we are, right? Not everybody can just jump in front of their, camera and start talking and going. Kraig has alluded to my little Facebook Live the other day. Yeah, like I can stand in front of the camera for an hour.
Loved it. I give you a lot of credit for that too, because I think a lot of people would be like, all right, I turn this on and I'm probably the first 2 comments are going to be from my kids who are like, Dad, seriously, this is on my feed right now,
But for the people that aren't like us, who are comfortable doing this, I think now is a time where you could probably be coming up with some ways that you can stand out and you can do it from home. So whether that is deciding that you're going to be much more comfortable in presenting or practicing a little bit while you're at home, or, now you have the opportunity to really create some new opportunities for yourself because everybody's working from home, and, some people work well from home and others don't. So I think this time, as hard as it's been for so many of us in all aspects, I do think that there are opportunities to be had for businesses and employees and those wanting to stand out. You can find it. You just have to put in a little bit of work. And once you start putting yourself out there with it, that's when people will start to follow your lead.
Yeah, when I put this together, and then we're about to wrap up here, and I want to share next week's topic. The computer is down there bottom left, and the reason that that's there is because you've got to put the work in first, and you've got to take notes. I might be weird, but every book that I've ever read that I really felt was important for me to read, I take notes within the book. I circle things, and then I go and I create a Word document and I write down the most important things. And I use some of those. I'll be honest, I use some of those, and whether it's in my workshop or whatever. But I actually want to make sure that somebody else who might be an expert in the same field, that we're kind of aligned on the same page. Now, they're not going to deliver it like I am, and I'm not stealing their material. I want to see if my material matches up, but I actually want to be different, and I want to share it different. It doesn't mean I'm going to go completely off the rails and go, nope, I don't buy into any of this, but I'm going to deliver it differently anyway. But you've got to spend some time on the computer, and you've got to figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are, where you want your brand to begin. That's the foundation for finding your voice. That's the foundation for building the brand, giving yourself the opportunity to pivot, as we've all done and as we've all talked about. So,
hey, Kraig, I want to add just one more thought to that, because I'm going to take a different angle on it, which is more of like, I'm a big believer in meeting people where they are, and there are some people who are going to be ready to take that step and feel comfortable of taking that one step forward of what can I put out there. And I think there are other people, because I was there as well, that are still wrapped up in their own heads. And that would sort of be my encouragement here, is to kind of like get out of your head and just try one thing today. And Laura Cross, who she's been awesome in commenting on the live feed. I thought this is a great comment she has here. If you wait for people to cheer you on, you may get too old to hear them. Isn't that great? So
that's a good one.
This idea of like, don't wait, or don't do it for the cheers. Do it because there is something that you want to say and share that's going to be relevant and add value. And then here's the next thing: do it again.
Hey, can you repeat that quote? I'm actually going to write that down. And what's her name?
Laura Cross. If
Thanks,
you
All right,
wait,
Laura.
Laura. Great
That's a
job.
great one.
Really
Yeah.
good. What's
Yeah,
the quote
love
again?
it.
if you wait for people to cheer you on, you may get too old to hear them. I think it's just a great. I don't know, Laura, if that's your quote, if you just made that up, but I think we're gonna attribute that to you henceforth, forevermore. But I do think that it speaks to value, creating and sharing and giving value. And when you do that, yes, then you will have these long lines following after. But if it's not first and foremost about the value that you're sharing, and you're thinking just about the long lines, I think you've got the cart before the horse on that.
No doubt.
I mean,
No doubt.
everybody wants to be validated, right? You
Right.
know, everybody
Yep.
wants validation. But if that's the reason why you're doing something,
That's
then
wrong.
you're not doing it for the right reason, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I think that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yes, no doubt. And I think each and every one of us, we talk about trying to add something. And that quote is terrific. Too old to have anybody hear you. This is one of the reasons I started the podcast. This is probably one of the reasons Jill started what she's doing, and just Jill. This is one of the reasons Mike is not just written a book, but is out there helping companies and doing the things that he does. We all have tried to find ways to take our talents, and this is a way to push it forward. And 2,500 downloads for season 2 so far.
It's great, dude.
That
Awesome.
Congratulations.
That's
doesn't
cool.
include the Facebook the YouTube views. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm going to name drop a little bit too, because Cole Swindell's coming up, and I'm a big fan. And that conversation is really cool. This week, former president of the WNBA, Donna Orender, who was an executive at the PGA Tour, who started SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio and many other things. She's the guest this week and getting a lot of traction. So I'm excited about what's coming up. And Susie Orman, I just didn't put her name on there yet, but she'll be coming up down the line thanks to Jill Bauer. Okay, so with that, I want to share next week's topic, or next time's topic, depending upon how schedules go. And this one I came up with, and that's anticipating the future. I'm going to tell you how I came up with this topic, you guys. I actually did a Google search on big topics at play in business during COVID. That's where I came up with this. Okay, so I didn't make this one up. I found it. Now I put the next line down, what you'll need for what they might want. Okay, which kind of leads you into, hey, where are we gonna figure out what our skill set is, because the world is changing. I just saw a big thing about ESPN. That supposedly, if you believe reports, another big set of layoffs coming. I think a couple airlines have laid off a bunch of people. I saw another company lay off. I was shocked. So things are changing. But next time we'll talk about anticipating the future. And when we talk about things like that, we're talking about your future too, and how your future fits into the bigger picture. And we'll go what you'll need for what they might want. Anticipation is the key word there. So Mike and Jill, you know what? This is how it works, folks. On Tuesday, they'll go, Kraig, what was that topic again? I need to come up with a couple things. Yes, you do. And I need 2 or 3 things from you to talk about that. And then I end up sending them this picture. That's how it works. Okay. With that, I will say that this has been a good one. I'm going to leave each of you with a final comment, give you 15 seconds, and then we will bid farewell to everybody. Jill, if you first.
Oh, I get to go first? Oh, well,
Yeah.
I mean, I loved our discussion today. I mean, I love learning from you guys and sharing these stories of all of our experiences. I think, some of the biggest takeaways for me today is, it is important to pay it forward, whether you're doing that through sharing information in your blogs or mentoring. Preparation is always key to sort of set yourself up for success in an opportunity as opposed to that failure. And, if failure, whatever your definition of failure is, becomes something for you, take the time to really understand it, what the ramifications are of that. And then how do you take that and become a master of those learnings?
I love the master of the learnings. By the way, if you're afraid to fail, you'll never start.
True.
Most people will never start. And a lot of people quit just before they turn the corner to great success. So you got to stick with it. Mike, your final thought.
Mine's simply this. Please, please, please don't underestimate your value and the impact that you can have on someone else's life. A small gesture, Don't underestimate that. So I would just leave that as encouragement to, if you hear that little voice, like Joe was talking earlier, that little one down in your gut that's saying, hey, do this, or nudging you towards something, don't question it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yep. Really good stuff. Hey, to everybody out there who's been kind of following us and watching this, I think we said 17 episodes worth. Really appreciate you. I don't think we can say that enough, because when we first started, the following was a lot smaller, and then it's grown and grown and grown. And the only way that it gets better is if you share potential topics that you would like us to debate and put out there. And we would love to hear those, because quite frankly, ours, they're good, but they could be better. And maybe you're the one that actually has the great topic that affects you. And whether we're speaking to one person, 50, 5,000, 50,000, doesn't matter. We want to try to share some insight and some information that can help you. So thanks so much for being a part of it. The show is called Elevating You, Reaching Your Peak, and we're glad to do it each and every Thursday, or as often as we possibly can. And as always, this will be posted in its edited form on LinkedIn and other places if you follow us on social media. Mike, Jill, thanks so much. It's been awesome. And to all of you out there, have a wonderful day and a great, great weekend. Thanks for spending time with us.